Daeho Kim walked into the Grand Assembly Hall with steady steps. His black suit was simple and clean. Behind him came Hee Jin Park and Sun Woo Lee. The three humans looked calm as they entered the massive room filled with alien delegates. The hall was huge. Its ceiling reached high above, painted with stars from 1,000 worlds. 12 different species sat in their special sections. Each group had their own style of seats and breathing equipment. The air hummed with translation devices working in dozens of languages. Chairman Veltar of the Zenthari sat at the highest podium. His blue skin gleamed under the bright lights. His forearms moved as he spoke with other delegates. When he saw the humans walking to the center speaking platform, he barely looked up. The human delegation requests to address the council, announced the central computer in its flat voice. Veltar waved one hand without much interest. Proceed quickly. We have important trade discussions today. Daeho stepped up to the speaking platform. The small device in front of him would carry his words to every translation system in the room. He cleared his throat and began. Honored delegates of the Galactic Council. Today, humanity formally announces our withdrawal from this council and all related agreements. The hall went quiet for a moment. Then came a wave of confused sounds. Some delegates laughed. Others whispered to their assistants. The hegemony's Prime Minister Krixmol made a sound like clicking metal. His insect-like head turned toward the other delegates with what looked like amusement. You cannot be serious, said Trade Minister Sixmara from the Zenthari section. Her voice carried through the speakers with a tone of disbelief. Humans have been part of this council for only 200 years. You are barely past your primitive stage. Daeho remained calm. His expression did not change. The decision is final. We will complete our withdrawal within one standard galactic month. But why? Asked someone from the Altair Collective. Their leader, a tall being with silver skin, stood up. Have we offended your species somehow? No offense has been given, Daeho replied. We simply choose a different path. Hyojin, Bark stepped forward. She carried a datapad in her hands. All human trade agreements will be transferred to other species as requested. We have prepared complete lists of our shipping routes, cargo schedules, and supply contracts. More laughter came from the audience. Krixmol clicked his mandibles together. How generous of you to give us your small trade routes. These routes handle 37% of all galactic shipping, Hyojin said quietly. The laughter stopped. Zixmara's eyes went wide. That cannot be correct. The data is accurate, Hyojin said. She pressed buttons on her pad. Numbers appeared on screens around the hall. Human ships carry food supplies to 14 systems. We transport medical supplies to 21 colonies. Our cargo vessels handle emergency deliveries to remote outposts. Veltar finally gave the humans his full attention. His four eyes focused on the data. These numbers show extensive operations. Why did we not know about this scale? Because you never asked, Daeho said simply. Sun Woo Lee stepped forward next. His military uniform was neat and proper. All human peacekeeping forces will be recalled from border zones. Our bases will be closed. Our patrol ships will return to human space. Good, said Admiral Threxkai from the Hegemony section. His rough voice carried across the hall. We never needed human soldiers anyway. Your people are too soft for real military work. Our forces currently maintain peace in 7 disputed zones, Sun Woo said. We have prevented 43 conflicts from becoming wars in the last 10 years. Prevented wars? Threxkai laughed. By talking, real strength comes from showing power. We prefer talking to fighting, Sun Woo agreed. But we also prefer peace to chaos. Chairman Veltar looked at his advisors. They whispered together in their own language. Then he turned back to the humans. This withdrawal seems hasty. Perhaps we should discuss terms. Maybe humans deserve better representation in the council. Our decision is final, Daeho repeated. We thank the council for these years of cooperation. We wish all species well in their future. But what about your colonies in council space? Asked Zixmara. You cannot simply abandon valuable worlds. All human colonies will be evacuated, Hyojin said. We leave nothing behind except our thanks. The delegates began talking loudly among themselves. The noise grew as different species discussed this unexpected news. Many seemed confused. Others appeared pleased. A few looked worried. "What worlds will you go to?" asked the Altair representative. "Where can humans go outside council space?" "We have made preparations," Deho said. He did not give details. Crixmole stood up on his 6 legs. "Perhaps this is for the best. Humans always cause delays with your safety rules and backup systems. You worried about problems that never happened. Problems that never happened because we prepared for them," Sunwoo said quietly. "Your excessive caution slowed our progress," Veltar said. "Every project took twice as long because humans insisted on testing everything multiple times." "Testing prevents failures," Hygiene said. "But you are free to use your own methods now." The human delegation began to leave the speaking platform. Deho paused and looked back at the assembled aliens one more time. "We thank you for allowing humans to serve alongside you," he said. "We learned much during our time here. We hope these lessons serve us well in the future, and we hope you learn that some species are not ready for galactic civilization," Veltar said with a dismissive wave. The 3 humans walked out of the hall with the same steady steps they had used to enter. Behind them, the delegates continued their discussions. Most seemed relieved. A few species were already planning how to take over human shipping routes and trade agreements. "Finally," said Crixmole to his advisors, "now we can make real progress without human interference." "Their departure will create opportunities," agreed Zixmara. "We can expand our own operations into their territories." Admiral Threxkai was already planning how to place his own forces in the border zones where humans had kept peace. "No more soft diplomacy," he said. "We will show proper strength." Only a few delegates looked concerned. The representative from the peaceful Lyran Republic seemed worried. "Humans were reliable partners," she said to her aide. "Perhaps we should have listened to their concerns more carefully." But her voice was lost in the excited discussions about new opportunities and expanded territories. The council moved on to other business. Most members forgot about the human announcement before the day ended. None of them noticed that human cargo ships had already begun leaving their routes. None of them saw that human technical staff were quietly packing their equipment. None of them realized that the careful, steady work that kept their civilization running smoothly was about to disappear. The humans departed as quietly as they had served, and the council continued its business, confident that nothing important had changed. 3 months had passed since the humans left. Admiral Threxkai stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the star charts with growing frustration. The navigation display showed red warning symbols across 3 entire sectors. "Report," he ordered his navigation officer. "Sir, 17 navigation beacons have gone dark in the past week," the officer replied. His voice carried worry. "Ships are getting lost in hyperspace. 3 cargo vessels missed their destinations completely." Threxkai's claws tapped against the metal railing. "Why were these beacons not maintained?" "They were maintained by human technical teams, sir. The maintenance schedules were complex." The Admiral pulled up the maintenance files on his personal screen. Pages and pages of technical data filled the display. Every beacon had detailed inspection logs, replacement schedules, and backup system checks, all signed by human technicians. "This is excessive," Threxkai muttered. "How often did they check these systems?" "Every 37 days, sir, plus emergency checks after any solar flare activity or gravitational anomalies." "Ridiculous. Once every few months should be enough." But 3 more beacons had failed just that morning. Ships were calling for help across the sectors. Some had been drifting in space for days, unable to find their way to the next jump point. Meanwhile, in the central trade hub, Minister Zixmara faced her own growing problems. Her office was filled with angry shipping company representatives. Their voices created a loud buzz of complaints. "Minister, our cargo is sitting in space," shouted a Zenthari trade captain. "The shipping lanes are chaos." "My goods were supposed to reach Altair Prime 5 days ago," added another merchant. "My customers are canceling orders." Zixmara looked at her data screens. Before the humans left, cargo moved through space like clockwork. Ships arrived on time. Goods reached their destinations when promised. Supply chains worked smoothly. Now everything was falling apart. "The scheduling system is too complicated," complained her chief assistant. Bora Choi used to handle all the logistics. She had everything memorized. She knew which ships could carry what cargo, which routes were fastest, which captains were reliable. "Find someone else to do her job," Zixmara ordered. "We tried, Minister. We assigned our best logistics team to replace her. They lasted 2 weeks before giving up. The system has thousands of variables: cargo weight, ship capacity, fuel efficiency, crew schedules, customs requirements for different worlds." Zixmara pulled up the shipping network display. It looked like a spiderweb of glowing lines connecting thousands of worlds. Human cargo ships had moved along these lines like blood through veins, keeping the galactic economy alive. Now the lines were breaking. Ships sat idle at stations waiting for cargo that never came. Other ships wandered through space with goods nobody had ordered. The smooth flow of trade was becoming a confused mess. "How did one human female manage all of this?" Zixmara asked. "She had a team of 50 humans working with her," the assistant replied. "They all thought the same way. They all understood the system. They could predict problems before they happened." On the border between hegemony and Altair space, Commander Velnash received urgent reports from his patrol ships. Fighting had broken out on 3 different worlds. What started as minor disputes over mining rights had exploded into violence. "Where are the peacekeepers?" he asked his communications officer. "The human peacekeeping force was withdrawn, sir. We are supposed to handle border security now." Velnash looked at the tactical display. Red dots showed conflict zones spreading across multiple systems. Before the humans left, such disputes were handled quickly. Human diplomats would arrive within hours. They would sit both sides down and talk until they found solutions. "Can we send our own diplomats?" Velnash asked. "We tried, sir. The Altair collective refuses to meet with hegemony officials. They say we cannot be trusted to mediate fairly." "What about neutral arbitrators?" "The humans were the neutral arbitrators, sir. No other species is trusted by both sides." The fighting was getting worse. Velnash watched as his sensors detected weapons fire on 2 planets. Mining settlements were being evacuated. Trade routes were closing as merchant ships fled the violence. He remembered Sun Wu Li, the human military liaison. The quiet man had somehow kept peace in these sectors for years. He never threatened anyone. He rarely even carried weapons, but when he spoke, people listened. How did he do it? Velnash wondered aloud. His aide pulled up old diplomatic records. According to these files, Li would meet with local leaders every month. He knew everyone by name. He understood their concerns before they became problems. He helped them find compromise solutions. "That takes too much time," Velnash said. "We cannot waste resources talking to every minor official." But the alternative was war, and war was far more expensive than talking. Back at the central hub, emergency meetings were being called. System governors reported growing problems. Communication. Networks were failing. Power grids on remote colonies were shutting down. Transportation schedules were completely broken. "What is causing all these failures?" demanded Chairman Veltar at an emergency session. "Lack of maintenance, sir," replied Technical Director Morgash. "Humans handled most of our infrastructure, support. They had maintenance teams everywhere. They kept detailed records of every system." "How detailed?" Morgash showed the chairman a data file. "This is the maintenance log for one communication satellite. The humans checked it every week. They replaced parts before they failed. They monitored solar radiation effects. They updated software regularly." "This seems like busy work," Veltar said. "Systems should run themselves. Systems break down, sir. Without constant care, everything eventually fails." As if to prove his point, the lights in the meeting room flickered. Emergency power kicked in, but half the computer displays went dark. "The backup generators were maintained by human technicians," Morgash said quietly. "They have not been properly serviced since the humans left." Veltar stared at the dark screens. For the first time, He began to understand what the humans had been doing while everyone else focused on politics and trade. On Altair Prime, similar problems were growing. Trade Minister Lixara faced angry calls from colony governors. Food shipments were not arriving. Medical supplies were running low. Emergency response systems were failing. The humans had backup plans for everything, her assistant explained. If one cargo ship broke down, they had 3 others ready. If a supply route was blocked, they knew 10 different alternatives. Why did we not know about these backup plans? Because we never needed them before. The humans handled emergencies so smoothly that most people never knew emergencies were happening. Lixara realized that humans had been like the immune system of galactic civilization. They worked quietly in the background, fighting off problems before anyone else even noticed the threats. Now the immune system was gone, and the infection was spreading. Emergency council meetings became daily events. Each day brought new crisis, reports, ships lost in space, colonies without power, communication blackouts lasting for days, trade routes abandoned due to navigation failures. "We need to contact the humans," suggested the Lyran representative during one heated session. "They might help us restore these systems." "Where are they?" asked Veltar. "Does anyone know how to reach them?" Silence filled the council chamber. In all their arrogance, none of the species had bothered to learn where humans were going. They had simply watched them leave and forgotten about them. "Send search teams," ordered Veltar. "Find them. Offer them better terms to return." But as the search teams would soon discover, finding humans who did not want to be found was much harder than anyone expected. And with each passing day, more systems failed, more conflicts erupted, and more of the galaxy's carefully maintained order crumbled into chaos. The humans had left quietly, but their absence was becoming very loud indeed. 6 months after the humans left, the galactic economy was in complete freefall. Chairman Veltar stood in the emergency command center, watching red warning lights flash across dozens of star system displays. Each light represented a crisis that was spinning out of control. "Report," he ordered grimly. Director Morgash looked exhausted. He had not slept properly in weeks. "Sir, we have lost contact with 47 systems. The main communication network has collapsed completely. In 3 sectors. Cargo ships are stranded throughout the galaxy." "How many ships?" "Over 3,000 vessels are currently drifting in space, sir. They cannot navigate without the beacon network. Some have been lost for weeks." Veltar's 4 arms trembled with frustration. "What about the backup navigation systems?" "The backup systems were designed by Mi Young-Yoon, a human safety engineer. We called her systems paranoid and excessive. We never learned how to operate them properly." On the main display, a detailed schematic showed the galaxy's navigation network. It looked like a complex web with thousands of connection points. Green lines showed working routes. Red lines showed failed connections. There was far more red than green. "The humans built triple redundancy into everything," Morgash explained. "If one beacon failed, 2 others would take over. If a communication relay went down, the system would automatically reroute through different paths. Then why is everything failing?" "Because the backup systems need maintenance too, sir. The humans trained no one else to service them. They said the systems were too critical to trust to untrained personnel." Veltar realized that humans had not been paranoid. They had been the only ones thinking about what could go wrong. Meanwhile, war had erupted between the hegemony and the Altair Collective. What started as border skirmishes had exploded into full conflict involving 4 neighboring systems. Admiral Threxkai commanded his battle fleet from the bridge of his flagship, but even military operations were falling apart. "Sir, we have lost contact with the 3rd Fleet," reported his communications officer. "Their last known position was the Kepler system." "How do we lose an entire fleet?" Threxkai demanded. "Navigation failure, sir. Without the beacon network, ships cannot find each other in hyperspace. The 3rd Fleet jumped to what they thought was the rendezvous point, but they emerged in empty space." Threxkai slammed his clawed fist against the command console. "In the old days, we navigated by star positions. These are not the old days. Sir, our ships are designed for beacon navigation. Manual navigation would take months to reach nearby systems, and we would have no way to coordinate fleet movements. The war was becoming chaos. Ships attacked targets they could not properly identify. Supply convoys got lost trying to reach friendly forces. Command and control had broken down completely. The humans always insisted on communication protocols, the communications officer said quietly. Yunha Song created detailed procedures for inter-fleet coordination. She said proper communication was the foundation of everything. We do not need human procedures, Threxkai roared. But without those procedures, his own forces were firing on each other in the confusion. The mighty hegemony war machine was tearing itself apart. On Altair Prime, the situation was equally desperate. Trade Minister Lixara faced riots in the streets as food supplies ran out. The carefully managed supply chains that had fed billions of people across the galaxy had completely collapsed. "Where is the emergency food reserve?" she asked her assistant. "There is no reserve, Minister. The humans managed just-in-time delivery systems. Food was produced on agricultural worlds and shipped immediately to where it was needed. That seems wasteful. Why not stockpile food?" The humans said stockpiling was inefficient and led to spoilage. Their system was perfectly balanced. Every world received exactly what it needed, exactly when it needed it. Lixara stared at the empty supply reports. Bora Choi had made it look so simple. Food moved from farms to cities like water flowing downhill. Nobody had questioned how the system worked as long as it worked. Now people were starving while agricultural worlds had surplus crops they could not ship. The transportation network had broken down so completely that food was rotting in storage, while cities went hungry. "Can we not rebuild the shipping system?" Lixara asked desperately. "We are trying, Minister." But the human system had thousands of variables. Seasonal crop cycles, population demographics, nutritional requirements for different species, storage limitations, shipping schedules, fuel costs. Bora Choi and her team managed all of this in real time. The riots were getting worse. Hungry people did not care about complex logistics. They only knew that the food that had always been available was no longer there. In the Lyran Republic, President Corella watched her peaceful worlds descend into chaos. The Lyrans had always prided themselves on being a civilized species that solved problems through reason and discussion. But even reason could not fix broken supply chains and failed infrastructure. "The medical supply shortage is becoming critical," reported her health minister. 17 colonies are out of basic medicines. Emergency medical equipment is failing without replacement parts. What kind of replacement parts? Technical components that were manufactured in human facilities. Specialized electronics, medical, sensors, life support systems. The humans made these parts in small batches with extremely high-quality standards. Corella remembered arguing with human representatives about their inefficient manufacturing methods. Humans produced fewer items, but made them last longer. Other species preferred mass production of cheaper goods. Can we not manufacture these parts ourselves? We are trying, but human engineering specifications are incredibly detailed. Their parts were designed to last for decades without failure. Our engineers are still trying to understand the manufacturing processes. People were dying while engineers studied human blueprints. The irony was bitter. The species that had mocked human caution was now desperately trying to copy human thoroughness. The Emergency Council met in continuous session. Each day brought worse news. Communication blackouts lasted for weeks. Entire star systems were cut off from the rest of the galaxy. Some worlds had not received supply shipments in months. "We must find the humans," declared Veltar for the 100th time. "They are the only ones who understand these systems." "Our search teams have found nothing, sir," reported Intelligence Director Hexmal. "The humans appear to have vanished completely. Their colonies are empty, but undamaged. They left detailed documentation about everything they were maintaining, but they left no clues about where they went." "What kind of documentation?" "Complete technical manuals for every system they built or maintained, step-by-step procedures for repairs and maintenance, training guides for operating complex equipment. They left us everything we need to understand what they were doing." Then why can we not fix these problems? Because understanding and doing are different things, sir. The documentation shows us what the humans knew, but it does not give us their experience. They learned these skills over generations. We are trying to learn them in months. Veltar studied the reports from across the galaxy. The humans had been involved in everything: infrastructure maintenance, supply chain management, diplomatic, mediation, emergency response, quality control, safety inspections, technical support. The list went on and on. How many humans were there in total? He asked. Approximately 8 billion across all their colonies and facilities. 8 billion. Veltar repeated the number with amazement. 8 billion beings keeping our civilization running, and we never noticed. The search for humans became increasingly desperate. Every species contributed ships and personnel to the effort. They searched abandoned human facilities for clues. They analyzed communication records for hints about human destinations. They even sent diplomatic messages into empty space, hoping humans might be listening. But the humans had planned their departure carefully. They had removed every trace of their future intentions. The only things they left behind were the tools and knowledge needed to maintain what they had built. They knew this would happen, realized Director Morgash during one strategy meeting. They knew we would fail without them. That is why they left such detailed instructions. Then why did they leave at all? Asked Veltar. Because we made it clear that we did not value their contributions. We treated them as inferior partners, instead of essential allies. The answer hung in the air like a heavy weight. The council members sat in silence, finally understanding the magnitude of their mistake. They had not lost a minor species that was easily replaceable. They had lost the foundation upon which their entire civilization rested. And somewhere in the vast darkness beyond known space, 8 billion humans were building something new, something they would not have to share with species that did not appreciate their efforts. The galaxy burned while the council finally learned to regret their arrogance. But regret could not repair broken beacon networks or restore collapsed supply chains. Only time, hard work, and humility could do that, and they were running out of time. 1 year after the human departure, the galaxy had changed completely. A desperate coalition of alien species worked together in ways they had never done before. The Emergency Search Coalition included members from every major species, united by their shared need to find humanity. Dr. Zalreth, a Xanthari scientist, led a research team through the abandoned human research facility on Kepler Station. The SEO, massive complex, had once housed thousands of human scientists and engineers. Now it stood empty, but the humans had left everything perfectly organized. Every computer terminal is still working, reported his assistant. All the data files are intact. They left complete records of their research projects. Zalreth moved through the laboratories with growing amazement. Each workspace was clean and ready for immediate use. Equipment was properly stored. Experiments were documented in incredible detail. The humans had left their life's work behind like a gift for whoever came after them. "Look at this," called another team member from across the lab. "This is C. Young Park's historical archive. She has records going back 300 years. Zalreth accessed the archive system. File after file opened, showing humanity's quiet work throughout the galaxy. C. Young Park had documented every major event, every diplomatic crisis, every technical challenge that humans had helped resolve. According to these records, humans prevented 17 potential wars through careful diplomacy," Zalreth said in amazement. "They mediated border disputes, trade conflicts, resource allocation problems. Look at this entry from 50 years ago." The file showed details of a crisis between the hegemony and 3 smaller species over mining rights. Without anyone else knowing, human diplomats had worked for months to create a compromise that satisfied everyone. The potential war had been stopped before it could even start. "They never told anyone about this work," the assistant observed. "They did not need credit," Zalreth realized. "They just wanted peace." Meanwhile, engineering specialist Kix Mara led another team through human technical facilities. They were trying to understand how Jiho Kim and his engineers had designed systems that worked so reliably for so long. "Every component has multiple backups," Kixmar explained to her team. "Look at this power distribution system. There are 5 different ways for electricity to reach every critical system. That seems wasteful, commented a young engineer. Does it? Kixmara asked. How many power failures have we had since the humans left? The young engineer thought. About it. Dozens, maybe hundreds. And how many power failures occurred while humans maintained these systems? I cannot remember any. Kixmara nodded grimly. Exactly. What we called wasteful, they called reliable. The engineering teams worked day and night to understand human designs. Every system was built with incredible attention to detail. Materials were chosen not just for cost, but for longevity and safety. Components were tested far beyond normal requirements. Look at these quality control records, said another engineer. Wu Jinhan tested every component that went into life support systems, not sample testing. Every single component. That must have taken forever, someone complained. Yes, it took time. But look at the failure rates. Kixmara showed them the data. Human-built life support systems had a failure rate of 0.201%. Our systems fail 30 times more often. The search teams made discovery after discovery. Humans had been working on solutions to environmental problems that other species had not even recognized yet. They had developed new medical treatments that could save millions of lives. They had created educational programs that helped species understand each other better. They were planning for the future while we focused on the present, observed Dr. Velnash, who had once commanded border patrol ships. His team was studying human military doctrine and peacekeeping methods. The files revealed a completely different approach to conflict resolution than anything other species used. Sun Wu Li's peacekeeping protocols are remarkable, Velnash said to his officers. He never threatened anyone. His methods were based entirely on understanding and communication. How can you keep peace without showing strength? Asked a hegemony officer. By solving problems before they become conflicts, Velnash replied. Look at this case study. A resource dispute between two colonies was escalating toward violence. Li spent 3 weeks living with both communities. He learned their concerns, their fears, their needs. Then he helped them find a solution that made both sides better off than before. That takes too much time, the officer complained. War takes more time, Velnash pointed out. And war costs lives. The search coalition also focused on finding clues about where humans had gone. Intelligence teams analyzed every piece of data, looking for hints about human destinations. The humans were incredibly thorough about removing traces of their future plans, reported Intelligence Director Hexamal to the Coalition Council. But they were also incredibly thorough about documenting everything else. What do you mean? Asked Chairman Veltar. They left us complete records of their past activities, but nothing about their future intentions. This was clearly planned far in advance. Long-range sensor teams pushed into unexplored regions of space, searching for signs of human activity. What they found was troubling and impressive at the same time. We detected massive energy signatures beyond the galactic rim, reported Captain Koresh from a deep space exploration vessel. The readings suggest large-scale construction projects, but they are too far away for detailed scanning. How large? Asked the Coalition Council. Larger than anything we have ever seen. If these readings are accurate, the humans are building structures the size of small moons. The implications were staggering. Not only had humans survived their departure from Council space, they were thriving. They were creating something beyond anything the Council species had imagined possible. How long would such construction take? Asked Veltar. With our technology, centuries, Koresh replied. But we do not know what level of technology the humans have achieved. Scientific analysis of human research files revealed another shock. Human scientists had been working on theoretical physics problems that other species considered impossible to solve. Yejin Cho's research notes describe experiments with space-time manipulation, reported Dr. Zalreth. Her team was studying ways to create stable artificial wormholes. Theoretical research only, surely, said a Zenthari physicist. No, these are experimental logs. They were testing actual prototypes before they left. The Coalition Council absorbed this information with growing unease. Humans had not just left Council space. They had potentially developed technology that made them independent of normal space travel limitations. What else were they working on? Asked Veltar. Energy generation systems far beyond our current capabilities. Manufacturing techniques that could build structures directly from raw materials. Agricultural methods that could produce food in environments we consider uninhabitable. The picture that emerged was of a species that had been quietly preparing for independence for decades, possibly centuries. While other species focused on politics and competition, humans had focused on solving fundamental problems of civilization. They were not just leaving us, realized Trade Minister Zixmara. They were evolving beyond us. As the search continued, more evidence accumulated of human foresight and preparation. Emergency supply caches had been placed throughout their territories, all designed to support evacuation efforts. Transportation plans had been developed to move entire populations efficiently. Even their cultural artifacts had been carefully preserved and transported. 8 billion people do not just disappear, insisted Veltar. They must have left some trail we can follow. But the humans had been as careful about their departure as they had been about everything else. They had planned for every contingency, prepared for every possibility, and executed their evacuation with the same thorough competence they had shown in all their other activities. The only trail they left was the growing evidence of what the galaxy had lost. Every day brought new discoveries of human contributions that other species had never even known existed. The more the coalition learned about human activities, the more they realized how much they had depended on a species they had barely noticed. We treated them like junior partners, Veltar admitted to his advisors. But they were the ones holding everything together. The search continued, but hope was fading. The humans clearly did not want to be found. And given what they had endured from the Council species, it was hard to blame them for wanting to build their own future, far from those who had never appreciated their efforts. Perhaps the real question is not where they went, suggested Dr. Zalrith. Perhaps the question is whether we deserve to find them. The coalition worked harder than ever to repair the damage caused by human departure, but they were beginning to understand that some things, once lost, might never be recovered. Trust was one of those things, and without trust, there could be no true partnership between species. Somewhere beyond the edge of known space, humanity was building its own future, and the galaxy was left to wonder if that future would ever include forgiveness for those who had learned too late to value what they had possessed. 2 years had passed since humanity's quiet departure. The Galactic Council chamber looked different now. The arrogant displays of wealth and power had been replaced with simple, functional furniture. Representatives sat in equal-sized sections, and every species had the same voting weight. Chairman Veltar, now serving his final term in a position with reduced authority, addressed the reformed council with a humility that would have been unthinkable before the collapse. Fellow representatives, today marks the 2nd anniversary of our greatest mistake, he began. We have spent these 2 years learning lessons that humans tried to teach us for centuries. The chamber was quiet. Gone were the dismissive laughs and whispered insults that had once filled council sessions. Every species now understood how fragile their civilization had been and how much they had depended on the partners they had dismissed. The infrastructure restoration project has achieved significant progress, reported Technical Director Kix Mara, who had been promoted after proving herself during the crisis. We have restored basic navigation networks in 60% of Council space. Communication systems are functioning in most sectors. How long until full restoration? Asked the Lyran representative. Conservative estimates suggest 8 more years for complete network restoration, Kixmara replied. The humans built systems with incredible complexity and redundancy. We are still learning how all the pieces fit together. The progress was real but slow. The new council had adopted human-inspired safety protocols and maintenance schedules. They had learned to value careful planning over quick results, but they were still decades behind human expertise. What about the trade networks? Asked Trade Coordinator Lixara, whose new title reflected the cooperative nature of the reformed system. Shipping reliability has improved to 70%, she reported. We have implemented simplified versions of the routing systems that Bo-Ra Choi designed. Food distribution has stabilized, though emergency reserves remain low. The new trade system worked, but it was crude compared to the elegant efficiency humans had achieved. Where human systems had been like a perfectly tuned musical instrument, the new alien systems were like learning to play with broken fingers. On the border zones, Commander Velnash now served as head of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force, a new organization modeled on human methods. Violence had decreased significantly, but it had taken enormous effort to achieve even basic stability. We have established diplomatic outposts in all former conflict zones, he reported. Our peacekeepers spend 60% of their time in community engagement, following protocols adapted from Sun Wu Li's methods. Is this approach effective? Asked the hegemony representative, Admiral Threxkai, whose military disasters during the collapse had taught him painful lessons about the value of diplomacy. Extremely effective, though slow, Velnash replied. When we take time to understand local concerns before they become conflicts, we prevent wars instead of fighting them. Last month, we resolved 14 potential disputes through mediation. The WAC transformation of military thinking had been one of the most dramatic changes. Species that had once glorified combat now understood that strength meant preventing fights, not winning them. But the most significant development was happening far beyond council space, where long-range sensors had detected ever-growing signs of human activity. Latest reports from deep space monitoring stations, announced Science Director Zelreth. Human energy signatures have increased by 300% over the past 6 months. The construction projects beyond the Galactic Rim now cover an area larger than our entire council territory. Holographic displays showed the edge of known space, where mysterious energy patterns indicated massive human civilization. The readings suggested technological capabilities far beyond anything council species possessed. What are they building? Out there? Whispered the Altair representative. Something unprecedented, Zalreth replied. Our analysis suggests they have achieved breakthroughs in energy generation, material science, and space construction that we barely understand. More disturbing were the reports from exploration teams that had ventured toward human space. They had found no trace of human settlements within the galaxy's edge, but they had discovered something else entirely. Automated monitoring stations, reported Captain Koresh from his latest deep space mission. Human technology, but no human crews. The stations appear to be watching our space while remaining completely hidden. Watching for what? Asked Veltar. Unknown, sir. But the technology is far advanced beyond our capabilities. These stations could observe everything happening in council space without us even knowing they existed. The implications were clear. Humans had not just left the galaxy. They had evolved beyond it while keeping careful watch on their former neighbors. Then came the message that changed everything. It arrived simultaneously at every major council facility, transmitted through communication networks that should not have been able to carry such complex data. The message was simple, clear, and unmistakably human. To the species of the former Galactic Council. We have observed your efforts to rebuild what was damaged by our departure. We are pleased to see that you have learned to value cooperation over dominance and planning over rushing. You have made significant progress. The message was signed by Donghyun Lee, identified as administrator of the Human Colonial Federation. The name was unfamiliar, but the message carried authentication codes that proved its genuine human origin. We appreciate your formal apology and invitation for renewed contact, the message continued. However, we believe that premature contact would not serve either of our interests. Continue your current path of growth and learning. When you have achieved true stability and wisdom, we will reconsider. The council chamber erupted in excited discussion when the message was played. After 2 years of searching and hoping, humans had finally made contact. But their response was not what anyone had expected. They are testing us, realized Veltar. They want to see if we can truly change. How long must we prove ourselves? Asked the Zenthari representative. As long as it takes, replied the Lyran delegate. We lost their trust. Earning it back is our responsibility. Follow-up messages arrived periodically over the following months, each one showing that humans were monitoring Council progress carefully. They offered technical advice when systems failed catastrophically. They provided warnings when diplomatic situations threatened to explode into violence. But they maintained their distance. Your species have reduced warfare by 80%, read one message. Your infrastructure reliability has improved significantly. Your cooperation between former enemies demonstrates real progress. Continue this development. The messages revealed that humanity had not abandoned the galaxy out of anger or fear. They had left to grow beyond the limitations of a civilization that could not appreciate their contributions. Now they watched from their advanced settlements, waiting to see if their former partners could evolve as well. They could destroy us easily, Admiral Threxkai observed during one council session. Their technology appears to be generations ahead of ours. But they choose to guide us instead. Because that is what humans do, said Dr. Zalreth. They build. They help. They improve things. Even when they have every reason to abandon us, they still hope we can become better. The latest message had included technical specifications for advanced manufacturing systems that could accelerate Council rebuilding efforts. The designs were clearly simplified versions of human technology, adapted for alien understanding and capabilities. They are helping us help ourselves, observed Kixamara as she studied the manufacturing plans. These designs will improve our efficiency by 50%, but they also teach us the principles behind the improvements. As the second anniversary of human departure came to an end, the Council faced a strange but hopeful future. They had learned to work together through necessity. They had discovered the value of careful planning and patient diplomacy. They had built the foundation of a more stable and cooperative civilization. But they had also learned that they were no longer alone in the galaxy. Somewhere beyond the edge of known space, 8 billion humans were building something magnificent. And perhaps, if the Council species continued to grow and learn, they might someday be invited to see what humanity had accomplished. They left us to find our own path, Veltar said in his final address as chairman. Now we must prove worthy of walking that path alongside them. The Reformed Council continued its work, guided by human wisdom but powered by their own determination, to become better than they had been. And in the vast darkness beyond the galactic rim, human civilization flourished and grew, patient as always, waiting for the day when their former neighbors might be ready to join them as true equals in the endless adventure of galactic civilization. The departure had been quiet, but the return, when it came, would be between partners who had finally learned to appreciate each other's contributions to the greater good of all sentient life. Until that day, both civilizations would continue to grow, to learn, and to hope for a future built on mutual respect, rather than the arrogance that had once driven them apart.